Hello. Welcome to the last version of, well, not last. Welcome to the Plush World Timeline. Let's get started. Before time. Before anything. Before time, space, planets, stars, and the universe, there were monsters. Monsters just existing in a white void. The most powerful of these beasts were the Orglorg and Lich. Euclidia. Before his birth. There was actually an event before Bill's birth where a 3D sphere met a 2D square called Mark. The sphere changed his perspective and he saw the third dimension. He was thrown in jail by the Pentagons and mentioned in the third dimension was outlawed in Euclidia. His early days. Bill was born to Scalene and Euclid Cipher. Bill was born of a rare mutation, only having one eye, as the rest of his people had two. Bill was bullied for this. Silly straws. When Bill grew up, he had more visions. He told all the children there is a fiery abyss. One night, Bill overheard his parents talking about him. His father had a doctor prescribe him medicine to make the visions go away. But Bill would only drink from silly straws, and still does. Deliberation. One day, Bill broke the fabric of his universe. He then heard a loud buzzing sound which made him black out. When he woke up, only his father's hat and his mother's bow lay in their spots. Bill, Will, and Pyramid Steve were the only survivors. Bill and Steve. After Bill and Will's falling out, Pyramid Steve met Bill, so they decided to stick together since they were the last Euclideans alive. The Nightmare Realm. Conquering the Nightmare Realm. After Bill and Steve got out of the second dimension, he soon took over the Nightmare Realm. Taking over it was fine, but it collapsed under its own weight and needed to be merged with another dimension. The Prophecy. During his time in the Nightmare Realm, Bill also learned that there is a prophecy that someone, like him, would merge the Nightmare Realm with another dimension, causing an apocalypse called Weirdmageddon. The Creation of Earth. Bill versus Time Baby. One day, Bill Cipher and his henchmaniacs and the Time Baby and the Time Police got into a star war. And the Time Baby mentioned Euclidia, and Bill got so mad he threw him at the Earth, killing the dinosaurs. Oops. The Fall of the Orglorg. The Orglorg was known as the conqueror of the solar system for a reason, and he tried to consume a comet for more powers. So the King of Mars, Abraham Lincoln, got Grobnar to banish the Orglorg, and it crashed into Earth it crashed into Earth in a field, making it a valley of weirdness throughout history. The Creation of Gunter. The gravity of the planet changed and warped the Orglorg from a terrifying space god to a cute cuddly penguin, later named Gunter. The Lost City. In the Lost City of the Pabanatra Trox, the ancient one would sacrifice a dog to appease the gods. But a border collie would jump on the executioner and massacre the entirety of the city. Void Termina. Millions of years ago, there was this space being called Void Termina who split apart, one part physical and one part spiritual. The spiritual part would be incarnated as the fourth god of the valley where the Orglorg crashed into. Ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt. Bill went to Ancient Egypt and told them to make a portal to release the Nightmare Realm into the dimension. But the portal only worked for 10 minutes. Unleashing a jackal-headed man named Anubis from the Nightmare Realm. This pissed Bill off. First Reign of Terror. Bill was so angry with the Egyptians, he plagued them with such intense nightmares that were so terrifying that they had to appease Bill in some way. The Pyramids of Giza. To appease Bill, the Egyptians made giant limestone monuments of Bill. Top hats, the eyes, the bow ties, and arms fell off and eroded over time, and got renamed the Pyramids of Giza. The Oracle Lord in Egypt. Gunther made contact with the Egyptians and was documented on a hieroglyphic. Ancient Greece. The creation of the Algebraians. The ancient Greeks created small symbols that they called the language of the universe, called numbers. Above Earth in the solar system, a planet formed with living number creatures called Algebraians. Ancient Greece. Bill, one day, landed himself in Alexandria and met the father of geometry, Euclid, which is ironic because that was Bill's dad's name. So Euclid taught Bill about flat planes, which interest Bill because he is in fact from a flat plane himself. The birth of Gleb. In 329 AD, a tiny green man with a purple hat was born in the woods around where Plush World would be, and he was immortal. The fall of Rome. In 476 AD, Gleb was caught stealing apples in Rome and was captured and was brought before Romulus Augustus. And when he said, "Why should I not kill you now?" Gleb did a dance, making Romulus go insane and jump off his castle, causing the fall of the Roman Empire. The Tanuki. In the 700s in ancient Japan, there were stories of... I'm sorry, I got cut for a minute. Yeah, I'm sorry. Technical difficulties, folks. Back to it. The Tanuki. In the 700s in ancient Japan, there were stories of mischievous little raccoon dogs called tanukis, who liked to turn into either statues of or suits for people to wear. Ancient Mushroom Kingdom. One of these raccoon dogs hopped dimensions to a place called the Mushroom Kingdom, which was run by these things called Goombas. Hold on. And it just sat there. It didn't want to go back, even though it was boring there. The formation of Plush World. The first pawn. One day around 800 AD, Bill met a shaman named Modoc. He told him if he makes him the portal to the Nima realm, he will give infinite knowledge to the humans. Destruction. Modoc then realized that it was being used, so he did 3 things. Burned down the portal. Modoc first burned down the portal to stop Armageddon from happening to stop Bill's plan. The Cipher Wheel. And to really get Bill out of his hair, Modoc created a wheel with 11 symbols. A question mark, an ice symbol, a fish, a pine tree, a star, a 6-fingered hand, a llama, a shooting star, a heart of stitches, and a pair of glasses. Self-sacrificed. To avoid further manipulation from Bill, Modoc created a campfire and waited for the other members of his tribe to leave, where he set himself ablaze, ending his life to avoid further manipulation from Bill. But what was sitting there would fuel Bill's joy of creation for the next year. The God of Pyromania. Fire and Bill had a conversation about where Modoc was, then who Bill was, and who eventually would eventually end in Bill and Flowery needing a place to sleep. Maybe a big old field across where they were standing. The creation of Plush World. Around 800 AD, at the same time as Flowery's creation, a tiny axolotl crawled from a pond to the field the Orgulord crashed into. It ate a space jelly bean that fell out of the sky and became God. First exposure to Plush World. Bill and Flowery soon learned that the field was actually a pocket dimension called Plush World, created by the axolotl, and the only characters there were Penguin that used to be the Orgulord and Glep. The concept of gods. Bill came up with an absolutely wonderful idea that Plush World should have gods, and named Fiery as the first god, the god of pyromania, the god of corn. On February 2nd, Bill came up with the first official god of Plush World, but second god, the god of corn, because Bill liked corn, the god of chaos. In March, Bill came up with the now removed god of Plush World and named him Marx, the god of light. On April 19th, Bill came up with the third god of Plush World, the god of light. But Bill decided to give him a name right away. Lux, the god of destruction. On April 27th, Bill came up with the fourth god of Plush World, a golden yellow and white ball he called the god of destruction, the god of onslaught. On May 12th, Bill and the Axolotl created the god of onslaught, and the fifth Plush World god was created. The first thing it tried to do was eat a squirrel. Onslaught's hatred. For the first 3 hours of Onslaught's existence were pure torture. He described it as having no body, no senses, and no feelings. But after the Axolotl spared him of his pain, he started hating humans. The god of execution. On August 13th, Bill came to the Axolotl to create the sixth god of Plush World, a cruel god being known for his kill count, the god of execution. The goddess of onslaught. On August 26th, Bill came to the Axolotl after seeing a cat and decided to have two gods of onslaught, and the seventh Plush World god was created, and immediately tried to overthrow Bill. The creation of Gray. To help Bill, the Axolotl brought Gray into creation to mellow out Wenda, and Plush World's seventh god was created. But Bill didn't like Gray's existence because it was something he didn't think of beforehand. The god of hyperdeath. On September 15th, Bill proposed to the Axolotl that they do something different. Create a non-physical god called the god of hyperdeath. The Axolotl tried to argue, but knowing this was Bill, knew this was a fight he couldn't win. So he just created what Bill wanted, and the eighth god of Plush World was created. The god of creation. On September 26th, the Axolotl told Bill he isn't a god, so created the ninth god of Plush World, the god of creation, he named Fluff. Other characters like the god of Tear and the god of Onslaught would joke that Fluff is Bill's persona, which makes Bill smite them. The demigod of chaos. On October 15th, Bill's 10th god was a bit different, a demigod. Demigods are usually gods possessing mortal beings, and Bill created the demigod of chaos. The creation of Magalore. On October 27th, Bill made the now removed god of Plush World Magalore, but him and Marx decided to overthrow Bill because he felt that they deserved better things. Kicked out of the god ranking. After the creation of Magalore, him and Marx decided to try to overthrow Bill, but unlike Wenda, they almost succeeded. But since Bill is more powerful than them, he unmade them gods. The god of the 3D realm. The god of corn felt lonely, and on October 29th, used his godly powers to create siblings for himself. His first sibling was his brother, the god of the 3D realm he named Expunged, the god of chaos. A month later, after Expunge was created on November 12th, Corn made his second sibling, which was Bandu, and Bandu was Corn's sibling, the Entity. On November 26th, Bill came up with the 14th god of Plush World, a tall, dark entity that Bill originally named the Entity. The god of Deer. On December 24th, 800, the last and 15th god of Plush World was created, the god of Deer, and it exists because Bill encountered a deer and has the power to summon deer with his powerful call. The creation of Leafy. Plushworld has a habit on bringing things life, and one day a leaf fell in Plushworld and was given life in the name Leafy. Oh yeah, fire develops a crush on her, which he never emits. Agriculture. One of the things the god of Onslaught remembers about the god of Corn is growing cornfields with a stump on the ground, and teaching early humans about agriculture. The god of Onslaught in Egypt. After Bill made all the gods, the god of Onslaught arrived in Egypt and installed the fear of Onslaught into humans. The creation of TD. Bill decided to give a gift to Execution for his good work of carrying out his reason for existing. It was a small, sentient orange fox doll with two tails. Execution named him TD, and like him, TD had high bloodlust. The creation of Xenocrystals. Bill also wanted to give his creations a gimmick by making them achieve a more deadly godlike form after attaching a crystal to themselves called Xenocrystals. The Ship Prophecy. After their way of beating people to death was created, Bill showed the gods what he called the Ship Prophecy, that most of the gods would be shipped with another character, which was right since Onslaught started crushing on this goddess named Okibop. The Revenge Prophecy. Bill put it like this: imagine in the future, you make an ally, and they betray you to make you look fool in front of humans. Now imagine you took a pike or a sharp object and stabbed them. Now let's say you did that multiple times. There you have the Revenge Prophecy. The Dark World. After 3 years of Plushworld's existence, a dark version of the place was developed, and was called by Bill and the other gods as the Dark World. They condensed the portal into a hole in the ground. The 1200s. Onslaught's name. Around the 13th century, the first of Plushworld's gods got their very own name, which was Wenda, because Gray started calling her that, and she just went with it. The Three Gods. During the 13th century, a wizard with an unpronounceable name who had beef with Bill kills 3 of his gods to put him in his place: the god of corn, destruction, and deer. After that, the wizard trapped Bill in a bubble and kicked him all the way to Europe. The Courtroom Jester. One day, a king found Bill stuck in the bubble and made Bill dress like a jester for his amusement and stayed for a month until the bubble broke and Bill escaped. The creation of Disruption Bambi. After the news of the 3 deaths, Expunge looked into the future and found who his brother would be reincarnated as: a corn farmer named Bambi. So Expunge used his powers to create a 3D form of this called Disruption Bambi. Expunge's Bambi form. Expunge also used the asset and used it as a red version of that with a red witch hat, and Expunged used this as his main form. Bandu's baby form. After Expunge changed his form to be more like Korn's reincarnated self, Bandu copied this so Expunge would like her more. It didn't work. Bandu's gender changed as well. The Middle Ages. The bubonic plague. In 1347, Gillette was in England and turned milk into yogurt. Some guys said that was witchcraft, and someone brought fire towards him, making him cough something blacked up, and it started the bubonic plague. The first Earth ally. In the 1400s, during the bubonic plague, Bill met a man who died from eating the hearts of dead plague victims. He didn't remember his name. Bill sent him to the Nightmare Realm and gave him the name Beetlejuice. The Great Plague. In 1665, after Gleb caught a cold, which causes Black Death, Onslaught thought it would be a great idea to take Gleb to London to cause the second and most famous outbreak of the bubonic plague. This pissed off Bill. After hearing from the Axel where Onslaught went, Bill kinda got scared because if Onslaught kills the entire human population, no one will be able to start Weirmageddon. Bill and the Doctor. So that night, Bill appeared in the dream of a plague doctor and told him his creation was causing the plague. Bill made sure to emphasize the demonic part of Onslaught's nature to get the doctors on his little ass. The plague stopped. In late fall of 1666, to get Onslaught to stop ravishing London, a plague doctor summoned him by making sure a patient of his died and uttered Burger King foot lettuce, which summoned Onslaught, who after a lot of pleading got a crosser at him, sending him back to Plush World. Locked in. After he got back, the Axel and Bill told him off, and Bill had to explain what Weirmageddon was, and told him, Onslaught, I hereby sentence you to be locked in Plush World until June of 1667. Early America. Witchcraft. Now, the idea of witchcraft had existed for 3 centuries before this, but Bill brought it into creation. So in 1692, the infamous Salem witch trials took place, but unlike what the Englishmen thought it was, actually Bill creating witches and not the devil, Bill just did it for fun. The next pawn. Bill's next pawn was the first president, George Washington. He told him to make the portal and he would give him tips to defeat the British. But when he made the portal, which was steam-powered, it sank into a pond. This pissed Bill off. Washington's nightmares. Bill gave Washington such horrible nightmares he grinded his teeth to dust in his sleep and replaced them with horse teeth. To appease Bill, Washington named the dollar after Bill and put him on the back of the $1. But Bill gave people confusion, and they called them the Illuminati. The creation of coiny. In 1793, some government officials created the prototype for the penny, which they made a lot for some reason. His name was Coiny, and he didn't want to deal with political BS, so he traveled 402 miles to Plush World to meet Fire and become brothers. The Order of the Illuminati. 1796, Adam Weishaupt founded the Order of the Illuminati with the most powerful people in it, and Bill hated it. Bill hated it so much, he met Thomas Jefferson to destroy secret societies. Bill told Jefferson to give tips to the German government to destroy the secret societies, because secret societies were banned in Germany, where the group started. Lincoln comes to Earth. In 1861, Abraham Lincoln came to Earth to be the 16th President of the United States of America. Lincoln gets assassinated. In 1865, Abraham Lincoln was watching a play with the man when the man John Wilkes Booth brought out a gun and shot Lincoln in the back of the head, and the former King of Mars turned president was killed. The 1900s. The creation of the ink demon. In 1900, a blob of ink was accidentally left at the mouth of Plush Wolf and it formed into a large, inky, demon-like character called the Ink Demon. Its first creations. The Ink Demon's first creations were not cartoons. There were places for them. Inkle Isles and Toontown for them to live, and Cartoon Hell for the failures. The Anti-Cipher Society. One night in 1901, a man who was struggling with his job met William Lucifer, Bill Cipher, in his sleep. He tried to pull the whole deal shtick, but it didn't work. The man founded 4 other people who met Bill and started the Anti-Cipher Society. Hold on. The 1910s. Young Alistair. In 1914 in New Orleans, a young boy named Alistair Altruist is seen being abused by his father, and his mother told him to ignore him and smile. But if you smile, turn the world upside down. The creation of Felix. In 1919, Pat Sullivan asked the Ink Team to create a cartoon cat for a short called Feline, Follies. Originally named Master Tom, it would later be named Felix for a more American appeal. The creation of Itchy. A month later, Chester J. Lampwick asked the Ink Game to create a cartoon mouse for him named Itchy, who's insanely violent. The Roaring Twenties. The creation of Julius. In 1922, Laugh-O-Gram Studios asked the Ink Team to create a cartoon cat character inspired by Felix named Julius, who would be the studio's main star until 1927. The birth of Bambi. In 1923, the partner of the Great Prince gives birth to a young buck who would become Prince and names him Bambi, meaning his friends. Bambi makes friends with a troublesome young rabbit named Thumper and a nice young skunk who is strangely called Flower, even though skunks smell like butthole. The first attack. The forest Bambi lives in is raided by hunters and shoots half the population in the forest, but the Great Prince saves his spouse and Bambi. Bambi's mom's death. The second hunter's attack took place during winter, and while Bambi and his mom were enjoying fresh grass, the hunters spot them. Bambi rushes back to the den, but Bambi's mom isn't so lucky, and the Great Prince takes Bambi under his wing. Bambi 2. In 1924, the Great Prince of the Forest takes his son under his wing and teaches him to survive the nature of being a deer. But Bambi is still traumatized by his mother's death, and tensions rise when Bambi's rival Rano is introduced to him. Twitter-pated. In 1925, Bambi comes back to the forest for the spring and meets up with Thumper and Flower, and the owl teaches them about the nature of Twitter-pating. Bambi and his friends roll their eyes at the idea of mates, but immediately abandon this pretense. What a bunch of simps. Bambi versus Rano. Bambi immediately starts chasing tail for Feline, his childhood friend, but then he has to fight off his old rival Rano for her. His old rival Rano for her, but Bambi wins the fight and Feline. The dog attack. The hunters reappears and his dogs try to kill Feline, and Bambi distracts them and wins, unlike the last time where he just stands there. The fire. Bambi gets shot in the shoulder and the hunter's fire gets too out of control, but his dad, the Great Prince, saves his son. The birth of Henry Miller. In 1925, a young boy named Henry Miller was born near Utah, who started to have a skin condition turning pink. His father also was a drunk. The creation of Oswald. In 1927, Walt Disney of iWorks asked the Inc. to create a cartoon rabbit for Universal and Charles Mintz. The prisoner Julius the cat. After Oswald was created, Disney decided to lay off Julius in favor for Oswald. Julius was last seen leaving Disney's office because that night Oswald killed him for the Ink Demon. Losing Oswald to Universal. Early 1928, Charles Mintz decided to cut Disney's pay, and he also took most of Disney's animators from Laugh-O-Gram. But Disney couldn't take Oswald because technically he's Universal property. The creation of Mickey. In 1928, Disney lost Oswald to Universal, so him and iWorks asked the Ink Team to create a cartoon mask for a short called Plain Crazy. The first cartoons. Walt and Hud made 3 shorts for this mouse, and the third was his first wide release. It was the cartoon Steamboat Willie. Creation of Scratchy. Chester decided to ask the Ink Team to create the foil to Itchy, and this resulted in the cartoon Steamboat Itchy, where Itchy kills Scratchy. The creation of Bendy. In 1929, Jody Drew and Henry Stein asked the Ink Team to create create any cartoon character, and it chose to make one based on itself and named him Bendy. The creation of Boris. A little while later, Drew and Bendy asked the Ink Team to create a cartoon wolf named Boris who would be a little antagonistic in the Bendy cartoons, but was Bendy's best friend. The music department. The head of the music department in Joey Drew's was Sammy Lawrence, who was a bit into cults, but was pretty normal, except he always called Henry his little sheep, which he assumed was a Boris reference. The creation of Connie. In 1929, for the silly symphony short, The Skeleton Dance, Disney made a ghost character who was originally going to be the foil of the skeletons named Connie Belinsky. But Connie was scrapped by Disney and never got to be made by the Ink Demon. Mickey Mouse in Hell. In 1929, Walt Disney released a cartoon called Mickey Mouse in Hell, where Mickey offers himself as a sacrifice to the devil to make everyone just as little miserable as they were meant to be. But this short was scrapped for being too dark, and held Mickey, the character in the short, is a servant of the devil. And that, my friends, was the first part of the Plush timeline. I hope you like it.